64 hit rate. Kishan knew that there was a missile nearby, but when the pilot sitting in the back looked back, he could not find where the missile was going. He could only see a white trail circling and rising from below. Maybe the missile has been lost? The pilot thought. The Su-30 wasn't a fighter that couldn't be shot down, but, he hoped, it wouldn't be today anyway. The missile exploded violently in an instant in the blind spot behind the plane, causing the huge fighter to roll violently. Without having to look back, Lieutenant Kishan knew that the plane was definitely going to die. The violent rolling motion caused his consciousness to slowly disappear. He watched the airspeed numbers drop to a low level before he pulled down the canopy release lever, and the 00 ejection seat ejected the two pilots from the out-of-control plane. The lieutenant was tumbling in the air while waiting for the parachute to open, and saw his fighter jet that was falling to pieces being bombed. It could be seen that the missile was detonated very close to the plane. Headquarters, we lost a lion. The pilot seems to have parachuted, the AWACS reported to the ground command post. The Air Force Chief of Staff stubbornly participated in the operation, which objectively destroyed the original command system. At present, all people, including the early warning aircraft, must obey his command, but he himself is the farthest away from the battlefield. The Indian Air Force has been experimenting with a new command structure in recent years, trying to prioritize the air command over the ground command, which is also a way the Chief of Staff himself has pushed hard, but the system is a system. When his orders are sent over the radio when in the air, everything is different. I see, you let the Torch Squad come back. Biff Raider replied. He had a hunch that this would not be the only Su-30 fighter lost today. The order to retreat may have come a little late, and the Torch Squad in the air is in chaos. Pakistani fire control radars on the ground were constantly tracking the 4 aircraft in the squad, and these radars were apparently so close that the squad was at a distance where these radars could absolutely burn through the jamming. The distant Flying Snake team, electronic jammer, is 100 kilometers away, accelerating towards the war zone, but now it is powerless. The electronic reconnaissance before this battle was carried out by the UAV unit. They did collect some information about the Pakistani side's radar startup. The Flying Snake team also stored these signal characteristics, but the radar used by the Pakistani side today has completely different signal characteristics. Is in a record blank. It is known that the pulses of these radars are short and changeable, the frequency band changes rapidly, and the follow-up deception, recording the current radio wave and sending it back with a delay, which can cause information confusion to the enemy radar, is almost completely ineffective. This shows that the enemy absolutely has strong technical support on the ground to guide the Pakistani personnel, according to the only conclusion drawn by the Indian pilots in dealing with Pakistani ground and air forces for many years. The missiles scattered all over the mountains began to fire one by one. A dazzling white light filled the air. The FD-2000 system has the ability to strike multiple targets simultaneously and could theoretically fire at all 9 remaining aircraft, though today's ground commander doesn't seem to be greedy. He only targeted 4 targets and fired 2 at each missiles. While Capt. Sahili frantically directed the Torch Squad to evade the missile attack, the recoil weapon operator was surprised to find from the data link display that the Thunder Fighter Squadron fleeing west had begun to turn. The captain realized it was a shameless fishing operation. Within 20 seconds, 2 Su-30s in the formation were hit by missiles one after another and fell in the mountainous area of Dhumalai. The lieutenant saw that all 4 pilots had parachuted out. The Kishan plane could not be seen, but he knew it was here. It is far from the border, and rescue is impossible. Given that they have just participated in the dam bombing operation, how Pakistan will treat these 31 squadron pilots is a very worrying thing. This attack is the first time that the FD-2000 missile has been put into actual combat. Its hit rate does not seem to be very high, 10 rounds hit 3. Obviously, this number is higher than the hit rate written in the foreign trade brochures placed next to the booth. Be lower. Of course, This result is enough to make Major General Islam in Saab 2000 happy. The Major General was completely unintentional about the next command at this time. He had just appointed the communications sergeant on the early warning aircraft to contact the ground troops and immediately searched for the Indian pilots who had parachuted and the wreckage, for fear that the wreckage would slip away. The Major General's thoughts had already flown out of the battlefield. He thought that he should bring all the foreign reporters to the wreckage to take pictures, so that they could see that such an aircraft, which India produces only a mere 12 aircraft a year, became in one morning 3 piles of scrap iron. Major General Islam's abacus was a little conservative. His first ace was commanding a 4-machine team at this time, chasing after the retreating 7 Su-30s. Perhaps, Sammy's ambitions are bigger. What he hopes to kill at one time is India's half-year output. Colonel Sammy, the enemy plane is escaping to the southeast. No other planes have taken off from the airport on the Indian side. The electronic warfare plane has stayed in the Hyalkot area. It is interfering with communication. The guide in the early warning aircraft said. I've seen it, Sammy replied. At the same time, his half-full alert sounded once. Sammy indifferently turned off the reminder audio. Abbas, you're moving too slowly, don't rush here, try to get rid of the damn jammer by the border. Where is it left? We can't see the Indian fighter jets taking off and landing west of Adampur. Sammy looked at the multifunction display and said that Abbas was too far from the battlefield to intercept the enemy, which made him a little disappointed. Understood. On the screen, the distant second team began to turn to the lonely electronic reconnaissance aircraft. Communication between pilots seems to be simplified since the data link image style information support. For an old fritter like Sammy, this is definitely a technique to increase command efficiency. Leader Squadron Captain, your plane's fuel level is more than half, please pay attention. The early warning aircraft continued to remind. Well, I see. Sammy replied perfunctorily. Listen, we're going to do an extreme assault, a shock that doesn't count on the return fuel. You can leave the battlefield at any time according to your personal judgment, or you can land at the nearest Allama Iqbal International Airport. Sammy on VHF radio said to his pilot. Of course, his words will undoubtedly be heard by Major General Islam on the AWACS aircraft. You can't land at the international airport, this can't be allowed. The Major General immediately called to stop on the radio, and he couldn't tolerate Sammy's self-talk about changing the rules. Listen, old friend, my radar has seen their lead, and he's 15 kilometers ahead. I'm in a good position, maybe I can take him down near the border. No, whatever. How, you can't land at the international airport? Maybe we can capture a squadron leader of an Indian fighter squadron alive, you can interrogate him personally, think about it. Singh will definitely cry. Sammy's side-talking words seemed to move Major General. Major General was silent for a while, not expressly opposing his reckless plan of action.